Hi, I'm Diana Rankin. This is going to be a message for both January and February. The reason for that will be made clear in just a few moments. But it starts with, it's running kind of late in January. For the message, we're going to use one of my books. It's the Master's Book of Answers. And as you can see, each page just has a different saying on it. And then we have to interpret those sayings. So we're going to just flip through this book and see what we come up with for today's saying. Oh, this one matches perfectly for me. I hope it beats you too. It's page 57 of the Master's Book of Answers by Philip. Philip is my spirit guide, and Philip is the one who gave me this book many, many years ago. It just took a long time to get it published. By the way, it is available on Amazon.com as well as on my website. My website's just my name, www.diana, D-I-A-N-A, Rankin, R-A-N.com. And you can look through it. If you go to Amazon, you can actually flip through some of the pages. You can read the beginning of it and some of the answers. But this particular answer on page 57 says, when you are frantic in your search, it may be because you are afraid to find that which you seek. When you are frantic in your search, it may be because you are afraid to find that which you seek. Well, we're going to draw again, or we're going to flip through again for February. But I want to explain this particular message first a little bit. This has just been quite a month for me, which is why I'm running so late getting this message out to you. At the beginning of January, a tree, I live in a woods, so this is uncommon, but it can happen. A tree fell on the air conditioning in my house and totally smashed it. Okay, brought the air conditioning fellas out to see about fixing it, and while we were talking about that, the furnace broke. Well, what are we going to do about this one? Well, we looked at the furnace, and it would cost several $100s to get it fixed, and the furnace was getting old, and it was kind of a question, would it even be able to handle another year, plus this year, which is where I am, has been very mild until of late. And you'll notice I'm sitting here by the fireplace because it's a lot warmer here. We're on a cold winter day in late January here where I am in rural Ohio. So I decided, all right, we have to replace the furnace. While replacing the furnace, and I'm just frantically trying to figure out what is this all about, what is going on here. I'm not an astrologer, but I know Mercury's in retrograde, and oh my, I'm just worried and I'm frantic, and what am I going to do about all of this? Well, while all of this was going on, and I'm trying to figure out what this is all about, in my mind, a little something happened. The fellas who were repairing the furnace and putting in a new furnace and repairing all of the wires and the pipes and all of that go with the furnace, they came to me and they said, we have another little problem. Okay, what's that problem? Well, we can't turn your gas stove back on. Now, I have propane for heat, and I have propane for the fireplace here, and I have propane for the gas stove, and my house kind of runs off of propane. And I said, well, why can't you turn the stove back on? And they said, well, there's a problem. And that problem is simply you have a leak. Now, when I had another company put in a water softener a few years ago, they did not install it correctly, and so I had a flood. Fortunately, the furnace and the water softener and all of those appliances are out in a special room in the garage. But my garage was flooding with salt water. And it happened to be the furnace men who came out to just take a look at the beginning of the year one year who noticed that there was a problem, because the installer kept saying, well, it's not with my installation. You've got a leak out here and you've got to dig the yard up and all that, which I never did, fortunately. Well, we got the leak stopped because it was just the way the saltwater tank was installed. However, that didn't stop the rust that had already started. So my gas pipes had rusted out around where the stove was. I would say the angels, and there was a little divine intervention here, I would certainly say the angels were watching over me. And I say that because with propane escaping from a hole in the pipe, either my kids and I, my animals, and you may have heard one of the cats a few moments ago, she came out to join us and made her presence known. We might have died from gas poisoning, propane poisoning, or it might have exploded. Fortunately, none of that happened. We were all safe, and it was because of the carpenter who built this house had vented the crawl space and had vented the area where the gas pipes were. So we were all safe, but we had no way of knowing that here was this problem. And what told us that is because the tree fell on the air conditioning, which made me call out the furnace people, finding that the furnace was broken then, and when they were fixing all of that and putting in a new furnace, they found the gas pipes were leaking. So I could stop my frantic search. I had my answer. I found that for a lot of people, a lot of this type of thing was happening for other friends of mine as well over January. So January has been kind of it's not over yet, but it's been kind of a difficult month for many of us. And what I do find is when we're going through difficulties, we do tend to look very frantically for those answers as to what's going on, what's this all about, when is this all going to be over? And so we just kind of have to let that go because it doesn't work. You know, on my my awakeningintuition.info blog, I just posted yesterday, or will be posting, I just sent it out to my mailing list, which if you would like to join, it's free. Just go to my website and sign up for the mailing list. But that particular article gave ways of how do we relax, because our intuition doesn't work when we're frantic. Our intuition doesn't work when we're caught in this, what's this all about? What decision should I make? What should I do? Where should I go? We have to be able to step back from it all and relax. And that's when we get our messages from our intuition. That's when we really are able to say, this is our divine guidance. This is my higher self telling me what I should do. So January for many of us has been a trying time. As I say, it's not quite over, but it's also a time, for a wonderful time for deepening and going deeper into ourselves. And February is that time too. February is a continuation of the winter of January. It's the time in the Native American tradition. It's the time of the West. It's the time of the bear. And as we know, the bear goes in and hibernates, goes into the den and hibernates in the winter time. So I'm going to again flip through the book and find a message here. And this is our February message. It says, when you understand the magician's trick is an illusion, even though it may seem real, you begin to understand life. This is for February. Let me read it one more time. When you understand the magician's trick is an illusion, even though it may seem real, you begin to understand life. You know, Philip is such a wise spirit guide, and I'm so grateful to have him. And I think that what that's telling us is life itself really is an illusion, and we can change that illusion because we are not the illusion, we're not the experience, we're not the emotion, we're the being having the experience, we're the being experiencing the illusion or the emotion. We know that, we can feel it here, but it's very hard to experience it here. It's very hard to really grasp what does that mean. You know, I think one of the things that helps me is my master's degree is in how the sacred is expressed across cultures and throughout history. And that's really been able to help me because I've understood a lot of mythology. I also studied with one of the great minds, I think, of our times, Jean Houston, and I studied with Jean for 3 years, 4 years actually, but 3 of those in mystery school. I travel up to New York once a month and with others work with Jean. And so I've always loved mythology, and she made me love it even more. So this is one of the stories I want to share with you that I really first heard with Jean Houston and Peggy Rubin. And the story is Demeter and Persephone. It's a wonderful Greek story. Well, what the story is about, because, and the reason I want to tell you this story is because as a storyteller myself, I realize that stories are, they illustrate for us. Stories tell us what we're about. They help us understand our lives. They help us understand what's going on. And as I mentioned, this is the time of the bear. It's the time to go inward. It's the time to really look at the truth of ourselves and look at the truth of our lives. And then we can look and say, you know, that's not really real, and I can change that. And that's going to be our challenge in February. But let me tell you this wonderful story, because it's a story of going inward. It's a story that explains nature, but it also explains our own personalities, our own beings. Demeter had a beautiful daughter, Persephone, and Demeter loved, absolutely loved this daughter to the way all mothers and fathers love their children, who with that depth of everything that is you. And Demeter would warn Persephone about the boys, especially one by the name of Hades. Hades was god of the underworld. Well, Hades really had his eye on Persephone. He thought she was this really cute little thing, and he wanted her as his wife. And Demeter said, no, 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 no. Persephone's young, she's innocent, you leave her alone. She's my daughter. She's going to stay here with me. Well, one day, Persephone and Demeter were out, and the spring time was beautiful, and the flowers were in bloom, and it was spring all year, all year. There was never a winter, because it was so beautiful, and everyone loved the spring. Well, Demeter turned her back, and as she turned her back, just that quickly, Hades grabbed Persephone and took her into the underworld with him. Demeter was beside herself. She didn't know what to do. She mourned, and she went from God to God, begging them, help, help, help. And as she mourned, so did the earth, because Demeter was the goddess who brought forth the flowers, who brought forth the beauty of spring. She mourned. And finally she got permission to go into the underworld and confront Hades. Well, he wasn't going to give up his beautiful Persephone. And Persephone kind of said, you know, I love you, Mom, but I want to be here too. What am I going to do? Well, they came up with a compromise. Oh, that our politicians could do the same, right? Well, enough of that. Those of you who are not in the U.S. have probably been watching our political scene. We're in an election year, and you've probably been watching our political scene with some humor, I hope. Well, anyway, Demeter and Hades did find a compromise, and here it is. The compromise was that for 6 months out of the year, Persephone would live in the underworld with Hades and be his beloved. For another 6 months out of the year, she would come above the underworld and live in our world and bring forth spring and summer and make the flowers grow and the spring rains come and the blossoms and the blooms and be with her mother. That was the compromise they made, and everyone was happy again. I love our ancient stories that explain the seasons. And within our own lives, we also have seasons. We have seasons that are time to go inward. We have seasons that are time to go outward. February is a season to go inward. If January's been a difficult season for you, just take it inward. Don't be frantic. Just know that the truth is the illusion can be changed. Not always immediately. We certainly don't want that, do we? We don't want all of our thoughts to come to fruition immediately. But with thought and creation, with emotion and love, we can create a wonderful spring that will be here before we know it. So thank you, my friends. I'm so glad you joined me today. And thank you, Philip, for being with us and helping us out. I will see you on one of the other videos, or I will see you for the March. And hopefully I'll be able to get March out before the end of the month, like I did with January. So forgive me for combining 2 months. I hope that was all right with you. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, which is just Diana Rankin, telling your friends, and let's together take this spiritual journey and make all of our lives a little bit better. Thank you. Blessings, love to all of you.